Hello, this is the group The Swift Ocelots at Full Sail University with our app BudgetPal. My name is Wesley Cassaday.
My name is Noah Stephenson.
And Michael Lanctot.
Ryan Oliver.
And this is the login screen of our app. We can start with either entering the username and password or the PIN, which we'll do now for simplicity's sake. This will bring us to the dashboard of the app.
So on the dashboard here, we can see some recent transactions that we've entered that we'd like to keep track of, and we can see our categories here and the allocation that we have been using up. At the top we can see our total. Let's go ahead and add a new transaction.
So here on the add transaction page, we can add new transactions. We can give it an amount, which for now we'll do 25. And then we can select from numerous categories, which this one we'll put under grocery. We can add notes to it, which is optional if we want to categorize it further or give ourselves some information, but for now we'll just click to add the transaction.
And as we can see, that transaction was added to our recent transactions, and the grocery category in the pie chart expanded. And we'll be able to click on that or tap it and see some transaction details, including the date and the note if we put one in. Let's go ahead and add another transaction, just to show another category.
So for this one, we'll make the amount 55. And we will categorize it under utilities. We'll add a note that it was the water bill. And then we'll add that transaction to the total history.
And we can see from there that that note was applied. Some additional features we have here on the dashboard are that we can click or tap on the pie chart to see a percentage of our spending. So we can see that our utilities are taking up 21% of our total allocation for this month. And housing is only taking up 6%. Some other features that we can use here on the dashboard are that we can remove a transaction just by long pressing it, which we're working on some additional functionality to swipe to delete that. But now let's go ahead and take it over to the full history and we can see all of our transactions.
So here in the full history, it's kind of just like the dashboard, but you can filter out your transactions, plus you can scroll down to see all of them instead of just seeing the most recent ones. And as you can see there, it auto updates as soon as you choose the category, and if you click the X, it returns you back to the original one. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that.
And now we'll go over to the budget setup.
And for our budget setup, we decided to add a couple bubbles at the top. Obviously for income, we want the user to be able to enter the amount of income that they make. Right now it's just like standard, whatever you put in for income. Eventually we'll like to add things like weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. Your expenses, which is actually taken from the dashboard screen. And any transaction that you make, yep, that total there should equal your expenses. And then obviously the math behind it, which will show what remains your income from your expenses. And down here in the categories, we have our default categories: grocery, transportation, utilities, insurance, different things like that. The number on the right is going to represent the limit. Right now it's set to 100. You can actually adjust that, like say 50. And, we'll just play with the numbers a little bit here. And then the graph should update accordingly. If it was something like 500, it should be a lot less. It's kind of adjust automatically, which is kind of cool. Obviously, the number on the left, just under groceries there, is going to be what's actually spent. And then your limit's going to be on the right of that dash. Some other features we would like to eventually add is being able to, once again, add weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. We'd also like to add a whole month transaction to where you can see your budget for the entire month versus just a couple weeks.
Yeah, so that's the overview of our features that we currently have in our app. Coming up with this next month of development, we have some plans to just expand on all of our features. So for the dashboard, most of our features are pretty much here. We want to be able to edit a transaction. So if you make a mistake with the note or something like that, we want to be able to change that. So that's just something we have to work on the database for, which I will be taking on for the most part, that functionality. Then we also want to do some stuff with the login. So Wes?
So for the login, what we're trying to add now is implementation with Firebase, which is an online database, which would give the user the ability to sign up for the app, choosing a username and password. And after we check the input to make sure that it is to requirements, it would save that to the database, which would give them the opportunity to log in across different devices or to be able to join their accounts or budgets with loved ones. And it will make it easier to use on the go. You can use it on multiple devices instead of having it locked in locally on the device that you used it on. So if you're at the grocery store, you can check your budget real quick, and all of that can be handled through Firebase to store all of that across devices.
And we also want to, well, currently how the app works is it just tracks all of your transactions in continuum for all of history. We want to be able to have the user be able to use this as a real budgeting tool that they can, determine what length of time they want to track things. So by default, monthly. So Michael, do you want to talk about that and kind of how you, what you had in mind for that?
Yeah, and as I briefly said a little bit before, we do want to add it like a whole month. We could be able to look at that, and kind of like I was saying too, as well, like we want to be able the user to be able to decide if they maybe you get paid every week and you want it to just show weekly. We want the user to be able to use options or inputs for that. Same thing for biweekly, and then once again like a whole month if you want to view it like that. I do know that that's something that we're going to eventually add.
Then Ryan, some stuff on the history.
Yeah, for the history right now, we want to add more ways we can filter it out, like possibly by date, and also we want to add a search bar for this, so we can search through the categories better.
And those are some of our main upcoming future plans. As far as challenges on this month, I think for all of us, we're learning a new language. We're learning React Native, which includes JavaScript, and JSX, which is kind of like a blend of HTML and JavaScript. So it's been very different from our C history, which has just been a lot of learning and figuring out how the languages differ and syntax and stuff like that. I think that's been one of our main challenges. Personally, one of my challenges was just working with the database and getting the local storage implemented across everything. I had some headaches with just making sure that I was loading the right data, and all that file storage stuff is always a little bit interesting, especially when you're learning a new language at the same time.
I'll talk about some of the troubles I had with the budget screen. I know, like Noah said, we're used to C language, and obviously a lot of the projects and things that we did in class were on console. So this is the first time we're actually seeing objects placed on screen. Making this bar graph was quite the challenge. Initially, I had groceries and everything inside of the bar graph itself. It made things smash together. It wasn't lining up right. It was actually kind of hard figuring out how to actually make the bar graph itself adjust. So that was some of the challenges I faced when working on the budget screen. Mainly just view, making everything look good was always kind of a challenge.
Some challenges I had on the login screen were things basically being in different classes and having to make sure that they communicate properly. So just throughout the development of the app, you make some changes, you save them, and it doesn't implement as expected. But without the functionality to code map inside of Visual Studio Code, which is what we've been using, as I became more comfortable with the environment, I found ways to track every class that function is accessing to make sure that I'm updating everywhere I need to implement changes to the username or to the password or to the PIN, and make sure that I handle those everywhere that needs to be. Because this project didn't have a main like most C++ and C# projects do. So once again, to Noah's point, that's just another difference between the languages and the environment that we chose for this mobile app. But the learning experience has definitely provided us opportunities, and we've enjoyed it so far, and we have a few more things to work on, and we really think we can get this app somewhere where it'll be fun to use and a good budgeting tool.
Yeah, I think that about wraps it up. Any other last words, guys?
Nope. Like Wes said, I think it's been a fun experience, and we're really excited to take this app further.
All right, well, thanks for watching this presentation, and we're looking forward to continuing this next month.